Chosen one, you are not still being tested. You are repeating the posture that helped you survive the test. You did pass, but passing does not mean money appears overnight. It means the assignment is changing, and the way you carry yourself must change with it. For a long time, your assignment was endurance. You had to stay honest when compromise looked easier. You had to keep moving while the numbers made no sense. You had to protect your faith in private, without applause and without evidence that anyone around you could see. You learned how to survive. You learned how to smile while your mind counted every bill. And you learned how to prepare for disappointment before hope had enough time to make you feel exposed. But survival and stewardship are not the same gift. Survival teaches you how to endure pressure. Stewardship teaches you how to recognize what is arriving, evaluate it with wisdom, and hold it without allowing fear to decide everything. You may sense that something is shifting, yet your body still prepares for the old disaster. You may receive good news, then search for the hidden cost. You keep checking the account, even when you know the number has not changed. You are not only looking for money, you are looking for proof that you are safe. You are asking whether tomorrow is covered, and whether God has remembered your name. That habit is not proof that you lack faith. It is a sign that part of you learned to survive by watching for danger. But the same reflex can make an open door look suspicious after too many doors have closed. Before this message ends, you will understand why your mind keeps preparing for danger. You will recognize the first forms of provision before they become visible results. You will also understand why insight does not always become movement. Some see an opportunity, but wait until the window closes. The problem is not always the signal. Sometimes the receiver is still in survival mode. Hold that thought. Researchers discovered something about the human mind that helps explain why prolonged pressure can separate a sincere person from their own clarity. It does not replace prayer or obedience, but it may explain the fog. That conflict is the meeting point between an old assignment and a new one. The old assignment said, "Stay ready for loss." The new assignment says, "Become ready to receive." The old assignment said, "Prove your strength by carrying more." The new assignment says, "Show wisdom by knowing what to carry and release." This is not permission to become careless. It is permission to stop confusing worry with responsibility. Worry repeats the same threat. Wisdom examines what is real. Wisdom takes the next faithful step with what is available. Chosen one, you survived because you learned to brace. You will steward well when you learn to become present. It begins when fear stops speaking as if it were a command. What if provision is already beginning, but the version of you trained by lack has not learned how to recognize its first form? If you are ready to leave survival without forgetting what it taught you, write, "I receive with wisdom." Write it as your decision for the season ahead. You survived, you stayed, you passed. Now the deeper work begins, because receiving safely requires a different capacity than surviving faithfully. Chosen one, what you passed was never a bargain that placed God in your debt. You did not endure pain, so heaven would owe you a payment. You passed because lack did not gain ownership of your heart, even when it tried to shape every decision. You could have become bitter. You could have used fear as permission to betray your values. Yet something inside you kept returning to what was true. That is the first thing you passed. You did not allow scarcity to rewrite your character. You refused to let delay erase your calling, even when you could not see how that calling would be supported. You kept moving without the approval you hoped would come. People saw only the slow result, but they never saw the private decisions that protected your integrity. You learned that your worth could not depend on what was sitting in your account. Money could measure available resources. It could not measure your identity, your obedience, or the value of what God was forming inside you. Think about Joseph. His story was not only about surviving a pit and reaching a palace. It was about becoming able to administer what arrived. Endurance kept him alive, but administration allowed him to protect lives when resources entered his hands. There is an ancient word connected to this idea. It is oikonomia. It carries the meaning of stewardship and administration. That matters because provision without stewardship can disappear quickly. A door can open and still be entered with panic. New income can arrive while an old identity continues, making fearful choices. Chosen one. God is not merely forming someone who can ask for more. He is forming someone who can hold more without losing peace. This is where reward fantasy must end. Reward fantasy says, I suffered enough, so life must now become easy. Mature stewardship says, what I survived prepared me to carry responsibility with greater wisdom, but every challenge has not disappeared. You are not being promised a life without uncertainty. You are being invited into a life where uncertainty no longer controls your identity. Hear this carefully. You proved that lack would not own your heart. Now increase must not own it either. You are not leaving one form of bondage just to enter another form decorated with better numbers. Money is a tool. Opportunity is a responsibility. Clarity is part of stewardship. Peace allows planning to happen without fear, becoming the loudest voice in the room. Right, my assignment has changed. Use those words to remember that your next season cannot be managed with the same inner posture that carried you through the previous one. There is something else you need to hold. Researchers have studied how different parts of the human mind cooperate, and one discovery became important enough to receive the Nobel Prize. That research did not come from a church. It did not replace spiritual wisdom, but it helps explain the distance between knowing what is right and being able to turn that knowledge into clear movement. Later, we will return to what that discovery suggests about prolonged pressure, fragmented attention, and the receiver inside you. For now, hold one question. What if the signal has been present, but the receiver has been operating in survival mode? The answer matters, because you are not only learning how to wait for provision, you are learning how to recognize it, test it, and steward it when it arrives in a form you did not expect. Chosen one. The first breakthrough begins with a symptom you know well. You can spend a long time doing small things, but the moment you face one important decision, your body becomes heavy. Your attention scatters. Your mind searches for something easier. You may call it laziness. You may call it poor discipline. You may believe that you have become incapable of handling what matters. But that explanation is too shallow, and it has caused you to judge yourself without understanding the pattern. The pattern has a name. It is the Survival Stewardship Gap. It appears when the habits that protected you during pressure remain active after the immediate danger has changed. Your body keeps preparing for loss, even when your assignment now requires clear evaluation. This is why rest can feel uncomfortable. This is why good news can make you suspicious. This is why receiving help can feel more dangerous than carrying everything alone. The old system learned that constant alertness was the safest available option. That system was not your enemy. It helped you survive difficult days, but it was never meant to rule every future decision. Here is the hidden cost. A mind trained to detect threat will notice what could go wrong before it notices what could grow. It will study the possible loss, but overlook the quiet opportunity. It will call fear wisdom, because fear speaks first. You were not incapable of seeing opportunity. You were occupied with surviving threat. That distinction rewrites the past with compassion. It removes the false belief that your struggle proved you were foolish. For years, your attention may have been assigned to emergency management. Your nervous system became loyal to the crisis. Now the crisis may be changing, but the loyalty remains. You open your account without needing new information. You reread a message because you expect a hidden problem. This is where agency returns. You do not have to obey the first interpretation fear provides. You can slow the process down. You can separate the event in front of you from the disaster your mind is predicting. Use a simple two-column reality check. In the first column, write, "What is happening now?" In the second column, write, "What am I predicting?" Maybe the fact is that a payment is due next week. The prediction is that everything will collapse. Facts require action. Predictions require examination. This practice does not deny danger. It restores proportion, and it gives wisdom time to speak after fear has delivered its first report. Pose for a moment. Place one hand over the center of your chest. Notice where your body is holding tension. Do not call it a warning from God. Simply recognize that this sensation is information, not instruction. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. Say, "This feeling may be real, but it does not get to choose for me." Imagine opening a bill in the future. Your chest tightens for a moment, but you do not disappear into the old loop. You read the number, you review the date, you make one clear plan, and then you return to the rest of your day. That may sound small. It is not small. It is the beginning of stewardship. A person who can remain present with reality can recognize options, ask better questions, and act before fear turns a problem into paralysis. The old posture said, "I must stay afraid to stay prepared." The new posture says, "I can stay informed without staying afraid." Chosen one, worry is not proof of responsibility. Constant tension is not the price of wisdom. You are allowed to examine what is real without rehearsing every possible disaster. And once fear stops impersonating wisdom, another question appears. What does provision look like before it becomes money? The answer will change the way you notice ideas, people, resources, and doors that once seemed too ordinary to matter. Chosen one, once fear stops impersonating wisdom, provision begins to look different. It does not always arrive as money. Sometimes it begins as an idea, a conversation, a skill, a resource, or one clear decision that changes the direction of everything that follows. Many people say no opportunity has appeared, but when they look carefully, they remember the message they did not answer, the introduction they postponed, or the idea they dismissed because it seemed too small. They were waiting for the completed result, while provision was arriving in its first form. This does not mean every message is a sign. It does not mean every coincidence carries a divine command. Discernment is not fantasy, and faith is not permission to ignore facts. But something can be small without being meaningless, and something can be ordinary while still carrying real value. The pattern has a name. It is the provision recognition window. Provision often moves through a sequence. First comes the signal, then attention, then evaluation, then action, then compounding. Money may appear near the end, but recognition is often required near the beginning. This is why clarity matters. A distracted mind may receive a useful idea and lose it within an hour. A frightened mind may notice an opportunity, then reject it before asking one honest question. A tired mind may delay until the window closes, then call the silence proof that nothing was offered. You were not always cursed. You were not always unlucky. Sometimes the process ended at attention. Sometimes it ended at evaluation. That truth is not meant to blame you. It is meant to return power to the place where a different choice can still be made. There is an old word connected to provision. The word is pronoia. It carries the sense of forethought, care, and preparation that comes before a need becomes visible. Think about the way a seed appears. It does not look like a field. A first conversation does not look like a contract. A new skill does not look like income. Yet the finished outcome often depends on whether someone honors the earliest stage enough to respond. This is where passive hope becomes active stewardship. You do not force meaning onto every event. You pay attention. You test what appears. You move when integrity, practicality, and examined peace begin pointing in the same direction. Use a daily provision audit. At the end of each day, write down one idea that appeared. Write one person or conversation that mattered. Write one resource already available. Then write one small action you can take within the next 24 hours. Keep the action simple. Send the email, ask the question, practice the skill. A faithful step does not need to feel dramatic before it becomes useful. Chosen one, discernment is not waiting until fear disappears. It is learning how to examine what remains after fear has spoken. Ask whether the opportunity agrees with integrity. Ask whether it is practical. Ask whether peace remains after you study the details. Do not call every open door divine, but do not call every small beginning irrelevant. Wisdom protects you from deception, and attention protects you from neglect. Write, "I will recognize the first form." Let those words become a commitment to notice before you judge, and to examine before you dismiss. Once you begin seeing the signal, a more personal question appears. What happens when you recognize the opportunity, but no longer trust the mind receiving it? Chosen one, there was a time when your thoughts moved faster, ideas connected easily, then pressure accumulated, and simple decisions began to feel heavier than they should. You started losing words in the middle of a sentence. You reread the same paragraph. You delayed important work because thinking about it already felt exhausting. Part of you remembered being sharper, and another part began wondering whether that version of you was gone. You may have called it laziness. You may have called it age. You may even have called it spiritual failure. But none of those labels should be accepted without care. Persistent symptoms deserve proper medical attention. The pattern we are naming here is not a diagnosis. It is a relationship between prolonged stress, fragmented attention, and reduced access to your own clarity. The principle has a name. It is the receiver restoration principle. A strong signal does not create movement when the receiver cannot hold, connect, and evaluate what arrives. Information may be present, but access to that information can still feel inconsistent. Stress narrows attention. It teaches the mind to scan for the next threat. That can help during danger, but it also uses energy that could have supported planning, creativity, and connection. You may know what matters, yet still struggle to turn that knowledge into action. The gift was not gone. Access to the gift became inconsistent. That contrast matters because it changes the story you tell about yourself. You are not required to build your future on the belief that you became less intelligent or less worthy. For years, much of your mental energy may have been assigned to prediction. What could go wrong? Who might leave? A mind carrying those questions all day has less room for quiet insight. This is why you can spend hours on small distractions, then feel sleepy when you approach meaningful work. The mind is not always refusing purpose. Sometimes it is protecting itself from the pressure it has learned to associate with importance. Agency returns when you stop demanding more force and begin creating better conditions. Give yourself 8 quiet minutes without notifications. Choose one task. Write the decision instead of holding every possibility in your head. Refuse major choices while panic or exhaustion is speaking loudly. A person once described this pattern clearly. An important career message arrived, but fear delayed the response until the opportunity disappeared. Later, that person created a daily quiet window and answered important messages within a chosen time. The change came from making clarity easier to access. The person stopped treating confusion as identity and started treating attention as something that could be protected. Chosen one, you do not need to punish your mind into becoming clear. You need to reduce the noise that keeps separating insight from movement. Your next step may not require more information. It may require enough stillness to use what you already know. Why does understanding all of this still fail to create movement? Why can someone recognize the pattern, name the opportunity, and return to the same fog the next morning? The answer is not that the insight was false. Information and access are not the same thing. That distinction is the missing piece. And once that piece becomes clear, the question changes. It is no longer only, what do I know? It becomes, what condition helps me consistently reach what I know? Chosen one, let us close the loop that has been open since the beginning. You understand the problem. Survival can distort recognition, and recognition can fail when access to clarity remains inconsistent. Here is the plain truth. You are not stuck only because opportunity is absent. Sometimes the mind that must notice and act has operated under pressure for too long. That pressure can narrow attention and make useful signals harder to hold. The work has 3 layers. Calm the survival response enough to see what is real. Recognize provision in its earliest honest form. Then create conditions that support clear action instead of fragmented reaction. And this is who you are becoming. You are not only a survivor, you are becoming the faithful steward. You are learning to receive without worshipping what you receive, and to act without allowing fear to become your guide. The clarity you have received is real, but clarity as an idea is not yet clarity you can consistently access. Earlier, I asked you to hold a question about the receiver. Now we return to it. Research by Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for work involving the 2 hemispheres of the brain. That work does not prove a spiritual promise, but it helped show that the 2 hemispheres contribute different strengths and that coordinated function matters for processing information. The creators of One Digital Audio program built their explanation around this idea. They describe whole brain activation as a state where analytical and creative processing work together with less friction. A woman from California described feeling separated from her own clarity. She had prayed, journaled, and tried meditation, but still felt unable to access steadiness. According to her account, after using the resource, she felt more focused and internally connected. A man from Texas described a different struggle. His mind felt foggy, and important business decisions took too long. According to his account, the resource helped him feel clearer and more able to follow through. These are personal reports, not guarantees. The team behind the program is led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York. They created an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence around what they call neural sync technology. The product is called the Genius Switch. It is a digital audio track. You use headphones, close your eyes, relax, and listen for 8 minutes a day. The creators say it is designed to support hemisphere synchronization and whole brain activation. The Genius Switch is not presented as a meditation app. It should not replace medical care, financial advice, prayer, sleep, planning, or professional support. The creators distinguish it from methods requiring more time or expensive equipment. Their program is designed as a simpler digital option with lifetime access. This is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that faith does not remove the responsibility to care for clarity. It is for the person ready to stop calling fog a character flaw. The listed price is $49. On the official page, the current offer is $39. The purchase also includes 4 digital bonuses. The bonuses include a guided visualization, a grocery guide, a classic manifestation book, and a printable guide to 5 habits. The purchase includes lifetime access and a money-back guarantee according to the terms on the official page. Read those terms before deciding. The reason to consider any tool is fit, not pressure. Ask whether the approach makes sense, whether you will use it consistently, and whether the cost belongs inside your real budget. There is also a cost to indefinite delay. Insight can return again and again, but without a protected condition for action, it may disappear into the same fog. That does not mean God withdraws provision. It means clarity still requires participation. One thing deserves direct attention. The creators say the original program is available only through their official website. It is not distributed through Amazon or Spotify. Files using similar names may not contain the same protocol. If the approach resonates with you, the official information is available in the description and pinned comment. You can review the details and decide without pressure. A tool does not replace God. It does not replace obedience. It does not make decisions for you. What it can do is support the condition in which clearer decisions become easier to reach. And that brings us back to the deeper message. You are not being rescued from responsibility. You are being restored for stewardship. Chosen one, a tool can support clarity. It cannot replace God. It cannot obey for you, choose for you, or protect you from every consequence. The deeper work still belongs to the heart, that is learning how to receive without fear. This is where another hidden pattern appears. You may begin to feel better, then create a new crisis. You may receive help, then reject it. You may enter a calmer season, then feel guilty, because struggle once became the place where you proved your value. That does not mean you secretly want to fail. It does not mean you are ungrateful. It may mean your identity has not caught up with your assignment. Identity often changes more slowly than circumstances. A person can leave the emergency, yet continue making emergency choices. They can spend quickly because holding money feels unsafe. They can refuse support because independence once protected them from disappointment. They can also delay good work until pressure becomes unbearable. The crisis then creates the familiar energy needed to move. This is not a lack of potential. It is an old pattern, trying to recreate the conditions it understands. The pattern has a name. It is the assignment shift. Your old identity said, "My value is proven by how much I can endure." Your new identity says, "My faithfulness is also revealed by how wisely I receive and manage." You were trained to carry weight. You are now being trained to create stability. Those are different skills. One helped you survive pressure. The other helps you protect peace when pressure is no longer the only thing shaping your days. This is why rest can trigger guilt. This is why support can feel suspicious. This is why an easier path can look less holy than the painful one, even when the easier path is honest, practical, and aligned with your values. Chosen one, you do not need crisis to prove that you matter. You do not need exhaustion to prove that you are faithful. You do not need to carry what belongs to everyone else just to feel useful. Use a simple receiving rule before you reject something good. Ask whether it conflicts with integrity. Ask whether it serves the assignment in front of you. Then ask whether you are saying no because of wisdom or because peace feels unfamiliar. Imagine opening your account one morning. Your body notices the number, but it does not become the number. You review what is available. You make a plan. You choose one next step, and the rest of your day remains yours. That is financial calm. It is not pretending every problem is solved. It is remaining present enough to solve the problem that is actually there. The old posture said, "If I stop worrying, I will lose control." The new posture says, "I can stay informed without allowing fear to lead." The old posture said, "Receiving makes me weak." The new posture says, "Receiving wisely makes stewardship possible." And for the person who felt something stir when the receiver was discussed, the resource remains in the description and pinned comment. Read the details for yourself and choose from clarity rather than pressure. Right, I do not need crisis to prove my value. Let those words reach the part of you that still expects pain to be the price of purpose. The deepest test is not whether you can receive once. It is whether you can become someone who no longer recreates what God brought you out of. Chosen one, picture a quiet morning. A message arrives with an opportunity attached to it. Your heart moves, but you do not rush. You do not disappear either. You read the details. You ask one clear question. You check the facts, the timing, and the cost. Then you notice something new. Fear is present, but fear is no longer making the decision. This is what clear opportunity recognition looks like. It is not mystical certainty. It is the ability to remain present while integrity, practicality, and examined peace are allowed to speak together. Not every door is from God. Not every delay is protection. Not every coincidence is instruction. Faith still checks the contract, studies the numbers, asks for counsel, and respects real risk. Some of you have heard messages about provision for years. You may be thinking, I have heard this before. But the value here is not another promise that a blessing is coming. The value is understanding why insight can fail before it becomes action. Some of you are facing debt, unemployment, or serious pressure. You are not being asked to pretend that everything is fine. Peace does not replace a budget. Prayer does not replace a job application. Clarity does not replace professional help when help is needed. And some of you feel unworthy of receiving support. You believe accepting help makes you weak. But receiving does not erase your strength. It allows strength to stop wasting itself on battles that no longer need to be fought alone. You may also carry a family story that says, money always disappears, opportunities always fail, and good seasons never last. Do not call that destiny. It may be a learned pattern of fear, secrecy, urgency, and poor planning. Learned patterns can be interrupted. Imagine someone younger watching you handle money without panic. They see you pause before spending. They hear you ask better questions. They watch you plan instead of predicting disaster. That is how a family pattern begins to change. Now close your eyes if it is safe to do so. Place both feet on the ground. Let your shoulders fall. Take one slow breath and bring one real decision to mind. Do not imagine a mountain of money. Imagine a simple table in a quiet room. On that table is one decision that has been waiting for your attention. See yourself sitting down. You do not need every answer. You only need enough clarity for the next faithful step. Maybe the step is an email. Maybe it is a budget. Maybe it is asking for help, ending a delay, or studying the details. Touch your thumb and first finger together. Let that small action become an anchor. Say, clear enough for the next faithful step. The goal is not to feel powerful every moment. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself whenever uncertainty appears. The signal has been named. The receiver has been addressed. The old survival posture has been challenged. What remains is the identity that can hold all of this without returning to fear. You are not becoming a person who chases every opportunity. You are becoming a person who can recognize, test, and respond to the right one. Chosen one, you have reached the place where the message becomes simple. Passing the test does not mean money will appear without effort. It does not mean uncertainty has ended forever. It means the previous season no longer has the right to govern your identity. Worry is information. It is not instruction. Provision requires recognition. Recognition requires clarity. And clarity must become one honest action before it can change the shape of a life. A tool may support that process. It cannot replace discernment. It cannot replace work. It cannot replace prayer, counsel, planning, or responsibility. The promise of this message is not effortless wealth. It is a different inner posture. You can meet opportunity with attention, meet pressure with proportion, and meet increase without becoming controlled by it. You are not only a survivor now, you are the faithful steward of provision. A faithful steward does not worship money. A faithful steward does not ignore risk. A faithful steward recognizes what enters their hands, tests it with wisdom, and manages it without surrendering peace. You do not have to keep proving that you can survive. Walk slowly enough to recognize what you have been prepared to steward. Let these words become your declaration. I am no longer governed by the fear of the previous season. I recognize provision in its first honest form. I receive without worshiping what I receive. I act without surrendering discernment. I manage what enters my hands with wisdom. I am the faithful steward I was formed to become. You may still feel tension sometimes. That does not erase your progress. You may still need help. That does not make you weak. You may still face hard numbers. That does not mean God has forgotten you. The difference is that fear no longer gets the final word. You can look at reality and remain present. You can ask questions without shame. You can receive support without apologizing for leaving survival behind. Write, I am ready to steward what opens. Write it as a commitment to recognize, examine, and act with wisdom. Return to this declaration when the old posture rises again. Let it remind you that peace is not carelessness and clarity is not pride. They are conditions that help faithful action become possible. The season that taught you endurance was not wasted. It formed strength. But strength is now being joined by discernment, patience, and the courage to receive. You passed the season that taught you how to survive. Now walk into the season that will teach you how to receive without fear, recognize without confusion, and steward without losing your soul.